Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or MOUNJARO? Then join us on The Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or MOUNJARO. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 MOUNJARO TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to The Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together, because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault.
Alive on the moon, Jaro. It's on the pen alive, with your host David Knapp.
Thank you, Clap Track, and happy Thursday night. I'm Dave Knapp, ManOnMounjaro. That's why I'm here. You are on the pen. Wegovy, Saxenda, Victoza, Trulicity, Mounjaro, Zepbound, Compound. That pen, that's what we talk about here at On the Pen. This is a live show we do. This is our 74th episode. We do it every Thursday night. So if this is your first time here, put first time in the chat, and our wonderful community will welcome you here along with our members like Corey, Sandra, Ray, Sabrina, Sue the Dude, Natalie, Donna, Carla, DJ. Who else we got for members in here? Thank you all for being here. Mimi here. Of course, she's over in Australia. She's in the Reddit Who Tried trial. And she's in Australia, and it's her lunch break. And she joins us here on her lunch break every Friday. And so thank you for being here in the future, Mimi. It's always good to have you here. So thank you for being here. We got a great show tonight. One of our favorite guests and one of my greatest friends in the GLP-1 community tonight, Kim Carlos from the Plus Sides podcast, is here to share a little bit about her journey and what's going on over at the Plus Sides. So put the Plus Sides in the chat if you are a fan of the Plus Sides. If you are not, you should definitely get over and check them out. We'll make sure that we link it in the description of this video. I'm pretty sure I already did, but make sure that you check it out at the Plus Sides. And then Plus Sides is with the Z on the end, not super hard to remember. So check it out. So thank you for being here. Thank you. I see the Plus Sides rocking in the chat. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I see some new people in here as well. So I want to just give a special shout out to some of the new names that I see in the chat. Oh, Allie Turtle. Hey, thanks for being here also. But I think I saw a Chris was new here. So Chris, Mike. Hey, Mike, how are you, buddy? Good to have you here. So yeah, welcome, welcome, welcome. We'll get started here. You know, this show has a rhythm and a routine to it. The first thing that we like to do when we start the show is just go through a little bit of housekeeping. You want Mintful pillow? What kind of hotel is this? Does anybody know what that reference is to? Drop it in the comments if you know what that reference is to. I always wonder if people think I'm just acting like a fool. The answer is yes, but it comes from somewhere. Where does it come from? Anyways, the housekeeping for the week. Not a whole lot to report. It's the summertime. We're doing summer things, right? Just on a personal level, my wife is walking again and driving. You would not believe how much you take those things for granted when they're taken away, but such a huge blessing to our family that my wife is walking again, that she is driving. So we in the Knapp household are having a concentrated summer. We got about 4 weeks left, and we are all in on summertime. Every night at the pool, every morning. We're at the pool for pool swim lessons, and in between we're just doing all the things. Chris Farley, yeah, Corey's got it. Yeah, that's absolutely what it was from Tommy Boy. So yeah, just a lot of fun summertime stuff. So my wife is doing better. Super, super excited about that. And Kimbo, I got your message, Tommy Boy. Yeah, she's all over it too. So yeah, we're having concentrated summer in the world of Dave Knapp. This is what I've been sharing with you. I am so excited to continue to share it to you. Probably going to share it with you until you get sick of me sharing it with you, but we're not going to stop talking about it. We got a book coming out on the GLP-1 pen. This is a huge labor of love, right? I want to talk about this just for a minute because I'm hoping to have this book out in the next 4 weeks. That may be a little audacious because what I'm finding is the writing the book isn't actually the hard part. It's like the everything else that you have to figure out, which, you just kind of like, and I'm sure Kimbo will rap about this with me a little bit, but like you just kind of figure this stuff out along the way. Like I'll figure that out. And then you sort of get into it and you're like, oh, this is actually a huge undertaking. But I'm hoping to have this done in the next 4 weeks. And, one of the things that I shared with the crew on the members only live stream, because before we have this show every week, as long as I can squeeze it in, sometimes we do it after the show. Make sure you hit that like button, by the way. If you're coming in here, make sure you hit that like button because that helps get more people in here. And in the summertime, we're sort of scrapping for people to join. So hit that like button. But one of the things that I shared with them was the name of the chapters. We'll leave that with the members, but I want to share with you the opening paragraph for the book, which is very short, just to give you an idea, because my heart behind this book is that you will be able to pass this book off to a loved one who you either want to understand more about what it's like to live with the disease of obesity, or somebody that you want to understand what these medications are, how they work, how you benefit from them, and why you're such a big advocate for them, especially people who sort of have like let's say, they've sort of fed into some of the narrative that goes on about these medications. So I would like to share it with you. The opening line for the book: those oranges that you're eating are just empty carbs. I was around 12 years old when these words were spoken to me. Those words, though well-meaning, would shape the way I viewed food and my body for years to come. I know that we all have a version of that story. And I always think of Kim's story that she shares, and maybe she can share a little bit more about her own sort of memories from childhood. Those things stick with us and they shape us and they shape the behaviors for years to come. And they all contribute to a genetic predisposition to the disease that we all deal with. And these medications are changing the game and leveling the playing field. And that is what this book's heart is, to share with those around you who desire to know more, but have maybe been misled by media narratives, who desire to know more about the disease of obesity, but maybe don't understand why it's a disease. That book is for you to pass off to them. And hopefully my hope in my heart behind is that it will help to galvanize relationships and help people to understand a little bit more about you and the medications that are changing your life. So that's the housekeeping for the week. That's what it is. And it'll continue to be the book until the book is available. People have asked about pre-orders. That's what I'm trying to figure out right now. I'm not exactly sure how exactly we're going to bring it to market, but I want a physical copy that people can hold and pass and have conversations with. That is my heart for this book. So that is the goal. Sandra said, hashtag release the book. I love that. Sandra, you win the best comment award for tonight. So thank you for that. All right, let's keep moving through and let's talk about tonight's What's Fresh. I am not sure how I have not been copyrighted on my bumpers yet, but I'm thankful that I haven't been. So anyway, YouTube's usually pretty tricky about that stuff. Here's the deal. One of the favorite things, one of my favorite topics to talk about on this channel is pipeline medications. I get really excited about the future of obesity medications because the current class of medications ain't it for me, right? They've done some great things for me and continue to do some great things for me, but I need more, and not necessarily more of what's out there, but I need more of what Dr. Chang and I talked about a few weeks ago, where people dealing with obesity are dealing with a very complex disease that has a spectrum, and one molecule or one pathway to correct metabolically may not be what somebody else needs. And that's why I get super excited about amylin and CagriSema. I get excited about retatrutide or retatrutide, and the glucagon agonism. Both of those drugs, as Dr. Chang explained, work peripherally to help lose weight. In other words, all of the current existing treatments work to restrict the energy intake, right? They're doing other things also. They restrict energy intake, where these medications actually help with energy expenditure. And that is what is exciting about the future of these medications. And so one of the exciting medications to follow is actually Viking Therapeutics. And we talked about this today. If you saw that video, let me know in the chat. But we talked about Viking Therapeutics. It's today Viking Therapeutics stock shot up like 30%. I'm not sure how it ended on the day, but Lilly was down 5%. Novo at one point was flirting with 4 or 5% down as well. I think they kind of rallied. And people were like, wow, what's happening? What's happening? Well, let me tell you what happened, and I'll kind of tell you why I'm super excited about Viking Therapeutics. So the reason the stock shot up immediately, Viking Tide, right, was that they actually announced that their phase 3 trials are moving up for VK2735. For those of you who don't know it, I won't belabor it, but it's a GLP-GIP. And presumably the ratio of GIP is much, much higher because people just aren't really having side effects like they do on even Zepbound and MOUNJARO, which is really exciting. And Lilly has really calculated that GIP receptor agonism is really the way to go, because you don't get all those sort of gastrointestinal issues that are so much harsher with the older GLP-1 analogs. GLP-1, of course, acting in different areas of the brain that sort of stimulate that kind of nauseous feeling and things like that. So they ramped up the GIP interzepatide. Viking Tide, I think, ramped it up even more. And so they're skipping a phase 2B trial that they had planned, and they're moving the phase 3 trial up, which means that we will likely have Viking Therapeutics VK2735 Viking Tide sometime in either late 2026 or early 2027 instead of maybe 2028 like we thought. So it moved the timeline forward, which investors really like. But the really exciting thing was that they have an oral formulation of this. The same thing. So just like semaglutide has with Ozempic and Wegovy, plus the oral formulation in Rybelsus, Viking Tide has an injection and a pill version. The pill's just in phase 1 trials. It's about to start phase 2 trials yet this year. And the oral formulation of this, they are continuing to ramp the dose up. And what excites me about that is you could have an oral formulation of VK2735 that is as effective as this in a pill. And that's what you can. J-May wants to know where she can check that video out. It's just right here on my YouTube channel. So you can go over and check that out on my channel here, just the video from today. But the exciting thing for me is pill formulations are really the future of accessibility to these medications. These require cold storage. Did a video about that this week as well. We don't know how these are treated from the time it leaves the factory to the time that it is injected into our skin. We have no idea, except for the time that we had it, how it was held from a temperature standpoint. And these require cold storage, right? And so to eliminate that element of the supply chain, to eliminate these complicated and ridiculous pens, not only from a waste standpoint, which, come on now, do better, right? I thought these companies cared about sustainability, and all this is crap right here. You can't, whatever. Anyway, a pill version of these medications is very exciting to me because it means accessibility. Viking Tide also means a third company coming into the GLP-1 game in a really meaningful way, and extra competition is a very, very good thing. So for all that, that's what's fresh this week. Viking Tide, make sure you go check out the video and get the full story on that. Maybe I'll link it in the description of this video. So if you're watching this later on, that you can go back and catch that. But we're going to keep moving through the show and talk a little bit about some fake news, because every Thursday night we like to take out the trash together. Sue's Happy Fun Time Pharmacy. What is the fake news this week? So speaking of Sue, the dude, of course, I have got to figure out how to make this stupid Mac not ding my text messages during my live stream. I'm telling you, I may throw my computer through a wall before the end of the night. And so if this ends and it's awkward, I'm sorry. You'll know what happened. So here's the, if you're my family and you're watching, stop texting, please. Take me out of the thread. You just saw Dave legitimately lose it on his live stream. Okay, so here's the deal. The fake news. Sue the dude sends me a text. He's like, here's your fake news. Actually, that's not how it went. I said, dude, can you bail me out with some fake news again? I don't have anything. And he said, let me check. So over in Japan, this is interesting. Over in Japan, they launched a drink that is hailed as the Ozempic drink, right? And it's just launched this week. So I'm like, what is this? Because we all know that GLP-1 and incretin hormones, and even hormones like amylin and glucagon, which are not incretins, but they're nutrient-stimulated hormones. They call them NOOSH. That was another thing that we learned from Dr. Cheng. NOOSH medications, nutrient-stimulated hormones. And so we know that we get endogenous or naturally occurring GLP-1 when we eat. We get naturally occurring GIP and glucagon and amylin and insulin when we eat because they're stimulated by nutrient intake. So really, everything is like the new Ozempic that you eat because it's nutrients and likely causing you to create some level of any number of those hormones, right? But this drink is a little bit different. It is, let's see if I can grab the name of it here. It is a drink that is called Tansan, Tansan. And basically what it is it's like a fizzy water. But when you drink, it's got some sort of weird vegetable-based additive that turns this bubbly medication into a jelly in your stomach and is supposed to help you eat less. So this thing sold out immediately in Japan. Sue said noosh juice. That just sounds like something I don't want to put in my body. Japan, you can keep your noosh juice. We will keep our Ozempic and MOUNJARO. Thank you very much. So you can keep your noosh juice, your Tansan. So Tansan, that nasty crap is the fake news for the week. That brings us, hey, Cloakster's in the house. How are you, buddy? Good to have you here. Always a pleasure to see some of the brain trust in the chat. And one of the interesting things about that drink is it's from the same company that makes this candy called Haichu, which I know I can picture it in my head, but I don't know if I've ever had it. So which Haichu probably also stimulates your natural occurring GLP-1 if you want to get technical with it. So in reality, what doesn't, right? And everything's being marketed that way, and it's highly annoying. But that brings us to this part of the show, which is why you're all here, right? The hot channel of the night. Super excited to roll that bumper and bring in our hot channel tonight. Let's give her a big warm welcome for DMF Kim.
Hot channel.
We even had an applause. I forgot that I had uploaded this applause thing. And so, yeah, we'll just run the applause again. Nimbo! How are you? I think I got you on mute. There, I think you're muted by you muted yourself.
That was adorable.
Yes. Welcome.
Best bumpers.
Oh, we have a good time here. I need to update them.
You're gonna see my messy office. This is just who I am. So it's like it is what it is.
She's honest. That's the only difference. I'm hiding my shame, but my shame is all around.
I wish I could just like crop.
Who doesn't keep their change jar right next to them on the floor?
Who has a change jar, Grandpa?
You know, in case things ever get squirrely, I need to be able to operate a laundry machine.
Okay. Well, you got a lot of kids, so you definitely want to make sure you have access.
Right. That's my retirement plan.
Yeah, sure. You know, weird story. My grandpa used to fill up a big Coke one of those all year long. And then at the end of the year at Christmas, he would let us all count it out evenly between me and my cousins. And there was a bunch of us. I mean, obviously they grew over time, but, and we would have like, I don't know, $100 or $200 like each. And we were just like, oh, we're rich, you know? And it was all just because he just kept his pocket change. It was the coolest thing.
Yeah, that is awesome. My dad, same deal. A little bit less of a heartwarming story. I always used to, my dad kept his in his office, and maybe this should be in the book, actually.
There we go.
So I really liked pop as a kid. And so I would literally, my dad's office was about 2 miles from our home, and I would hop on the bike. I would ride to his office, and he probably just thought, oh, my son's coming by to say hi. But I would sneak into his office. I would jiggle it in. He had the big 5-gallon water jug,
Yeah.
full of change, and I'd wring it out. And he had to know what I was doing. I'd put, fill my pockets full of change, and I'd drive up to the gas station. I'd get me a nice Sprite and drive back home. And my dad's dead now. He's aware. I think I did apologize to him as a adult. Like, hey, I used to raid your change jar. He's like, I know.
I think he probably thought it was cute.
I would imagine. I imagine he would have stopped it if he didn't like it. I was like 10 years old, so
yeah.
Yeah.
That's when you start getting sneaky. Because my boy's 11 and he's sneaky.
Is he sneaking off to buy Sprite?
Not Sprite, but Coke. Yeah. Oh yeah.
To each their own.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for being here. Especially, I mean, we talked about doing this for a while, and then the gal that I was gonna have on this week or next week, I think hopefully she'll be on next week. I actually sent you this is like just creator talk here, but I actually sent you a video on Instagram today, and that's who I'm gonna have on.
Okay, great.
And she's so good. You should just, especially in light of the changes going on in your world, which we'll get to, you got to check her out. She's so good. But yeah, so let's talk about last year. You were on the show. I was over on the plus sides. You had Rosie O'Donnell on shortly thereafter. What has life for Kim Carlos and the plus sides looked like since Rosie?
Yeah, God. Well, great question. Wish I'd thought that I'm going to answer for it. I'm just going to free flow and just tell me if I'm talking too much.
Yeah, just go.
So, for those people, if you have new people to your channel and they don't know me, so I'm Kim. I run the Plus Sides podcast, and our podcast interviews, much like Dave, interviews doctors, but we also interview community guests. And my goal when I launched the podcast, I could always sort of see it. I don't know how to see it in my head. I just could see these disparate, I could see these creators talking about their story, right? And I could see these doctors talking about why it's not our fault and the science. And I just was like, it's not telling a complete story. They're not putting it together, right? And so I thought, well, that's because we need a duet, right? We needed a duet of those things. We needed to see the story of the person, and we needed the validation of the doctor next to it. So the plus sides, the whole format, almost every show, we have a community guest and we have a doctor or an expert of some sort. It could even be a dietitian, right? To validate the experiences of those who have struggled with the disease of obesity. And so I just needed it to be together. And I was just incredibly driven to make it happen. And I feel like there aren't a lot of places that let you share your story like that, and certainly not raw and emotional. And 2 years ago, when we first started taking these medicines, right, people were just starting to create about it. There wasn't a lot of people doing it. And I remember that we all, when we found each other, felt so seen and so heard and so validated. But when we would look at the news, right, we were villainized, And so I just couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand how they would take our videos of doing our injections or whatever it is and commercialize it and block out our tummies as if they were something to be ashamed of. And I just couldn't stand it. And so I was like, I want to have unfiltered, uncut. And that's what the plus sides has always been, right? Is that we don't filter anybody's words. We talk about the hard things. We do talk about, eating disorders and all of those things on the plus sides podcast, where it makes sense, and trauma and childhood trauma and all those things that, you were kind of touching on in the beginning of why we've ended up the way that we are. And it's been the honor sorry, of my life. And it has, truthfully, and it has been the hardest work I've ever done. But I'm so blessed to be in a position to be able to bring people together and to have anybody tell me that I've helped them with anything ever with my loud mouth, And when we found out that the savings card was going to end, right? That was like a big thing for us in the beginning, right? And that people couldn't get Mounjaro anymore for $25 that had obesity. When we found out that was going to end, I made a kind of desperate plea to Rosie O'Donnell because I knew she was on Mounjaro. And I just said, hey, if you want to come on our show, we'd love that. But if you would just duet this video, because like she didn't follow me, she's Rosie O'Donnell, right? Then that would mean the world to our little bitty podcast, right? And this would have been episode 13, right? That's what Rosie's episode is. And she duetted it and came on the podcast. And we acted like that. I mean, she was like, you want to do it tomorrow? And I was like, yes, we do want to do it tomorrow. Like it was that fast, you know? And the community is very powerful. And I think that sometimes because we have obesity, we forget that because you're a very marginalized community. But the reason that all happened is because I asked the community and I went, I want you to go when I duet this and tag the shit out of her in the comments and ask her to come on the podcast. So when you see that many notifications come up, that's why TikTok's so powerful. Like all of a sudden, right? Then that is what like held us kind of rise above so that she could see us and then accept to come on. And obviously that sent our podcast just reeling in a good way, right? And we got very big for our space very quick, right? Not big for podcasts very quick, but for our niche, it got really, really good. And from there, I was just like, we just have to keep going. And I felt more motivated than ever, you know? And since then we've had a couple people, we've had a couple Bravo stars that have come on. I've got more planned. Like, you know, I think it's just getting us more and more opportunities. We have large creators, we have small creators, we have people that don't even create content that come on our show. We do lives, you know, also we do those every other Wednesday. And it's just been the best thing I've ever done.
You and I have had several conversations sort of just on the phone chatting about this. And one of the things that I was talking to our members about before the stream was it's sort of this unique position that we find ourselves in where, you know, I don't know that either of us set out to have, you know, sort of the voices that we do today. But we have been blessed to have been given that. And so one of the things that we have been talking about sort of between the two of us is like, how do we orient our lives so that we can sustain this? Because as you mentioned, it is a huge sacrifice. It is a ton of work. And when it's not taking your time directly through a video, a live stream, an interview, it's taking up mental energy because, you know, we're in this really strange position where we interact with thousands of people who are living with a very heavy and trauma-filled disease, right? And so there's just a heaviness about it. And so like, I know for me that has meant twice in the last year switching jobs, you know, to sort of accommodate this as it grows. And so tell me a little bit about, if you're okay sharing, you had a video that came out, by the way. Thank you to Cloakster, thank you to Chris, thank you to Round Mound, thank you for the super stickers. Those are super greatly appreciated, very kind and generous of you. But do you mind sharing? You put a video out today and I was so thrilled to hear this, but I want you to tell that story to the community.
Let me go if I get too preachy. Okay. Hallelujah. GLP-1 evangelist. I quit my job today. I was a good girl and gave my notice 2 weeks and everything, but I have been very much struggling. I would say really since the guidelines were going to be changing with TikTok, and my content had been heavily suppressed, and struggling mentally, feeling unheard and silent. I've made backup accounts and those, you know, doing okay. But ultimately any kind of content that we were making around GLP-1s for me. And I think a lot of that honestly is because my username at the time when they made these changes in the guideline was DMF Kim on Mounjaro Zepbound, because I'm in marketing and SEO is a thing, guys. And I very much like wanted to, I don't know, I'd be heard. I think everybody wants to be heard, right? And I really like also to duet other people's, like especially smaller creators. If I think they make really good content, I like to duet it. I like to stitch. I like to get out there, and I feel responsibility. And being in creator program and being on TikTok shop, I think because my account, this is just all like assumptions, is associated with a lot of revenue for TikTok, right? I was just very silenced. And even at the time when they were going to change the guidelines, it was like I would get locked in jail, my videos, there were like 0 views. And I don't talk about weight loss medicines. I talk about the mental, the emotional, what it's like to go through these things, all of this different stuff. Like I talk to doctors, like it's very much health focused. That didn't matter. All of my content had been suppressed. So I was really struggling the past few months. And then I went to the doctors last week and had a very bad experience at the doctor with my OBGYN. You can see the videos. And I wanted to process that, if that makes sense, because 2 years ago, when I was a creator on this app and this community was not huge, that is exactly what we did. Specifically, I would say like many of us, but especially like my friend and I, Rachel, like we led on the app, like we let it all out because all of the trauma and all of the things, have someone hear us and all of those things, right, on TikTok. And I very much felt stifled. And so that day with that bad experience, I needed to get it out. And I went to go make this video, and I thought I made it on my backup account because I was like, it'll go nowhere on my main account and you can toggle between on TikTok. Well, I didn't. I made it on my main account and it went viral. Now, viral for GOP is like, 100,000, right? It's not like, millions and stuff. I mean, there are people that have millions of views, that aren't GOP, but not me. And it just kind of exploded, and I still didn't realize that I had done it on my backup account. And then I replied to my friend Chris, who made a comment on mine, and then that one started picking up and going viral too. And it was for the first time in months that I actually felt like people saw my content, because a lot of times with TikTok, you have these people who choose to follow you, and only like 10% of them ever see your content. And when I'm sitting here and doing nothing, making shop videos all the time, I felt like I wasn't honoring their choice to follow me. And I know that sounds a little silly, but in our community, you have choices, you have options, right? And people that choose to follow you, I don't know, I just feel like I wanted to honor them with the reason that they chose to follow me. And I couldn't do that. And so I have felt like, honestly, like a big old poser for a long time over the past few months because of it, but I couldn't help it. So I continued to create accounts everywhere. Like I'm more on TikTok, on IG, all the things, Clapper, good God, like anywhere I could. Cause I was like, I'm just going to advocate everywhere I can, because it's not in me not to. It's impossible to take a medication for an illness you've had your entire life and not want to shout about it. Right. And then that's how we became GLP-1 evangelists, because of the change that happens in your body and in your mind. And you're like, I just want everyone to feel like this. I just want everyone who's ever struggled with me or like me in this way with this disease to know they're not alone. There's tons of us, millions of us, right? And billions, if really, and it's not their fault. Like, we know it's not your fault. We know, we have the science, we've seen it. And so it really kind of drove me crazy. But when I made this video and it started going viral, all of a sudden I saw all of my community, like OGs and all these people that haven't seen my content in months, if not a year, like supporting me. And I felt caught. Does that make sense? Like I felt caught by my community. Because I think a lot of times people think that I've been doing this 2 years, I've lost 100 pounds. Like they think that I've got it figured out, or I'm sort of in this weird place, like maintenance. I'm not in maintenance, but like, people don't think of it. I need my community too. And in that moment, I knew that I was going to have, and I've been knowing for a few months now, right? Like that I was going to have to make a choice, right? If I was going to continue with the podcast, if I was going to, give it to someone else to carry the torch, if I was going to quit my job, which I'm the breadwinner for my family. So quitting my job honestly wasn't even an option. And then these things started happening. So that one started picking up on my account and some of my content started getting pushed out again. And then I went viral on Instagram. And then my Instagram started to grow. And then I got picked up as a star creator for TikTok Shop. So it kind of let up a lot of the holdings and issues, that I felt like were on me. and because being in the Star Creator, it's like invite only, it's a big deal. And I'm like, God's taking care of me, right? So I am a person that usually doesn't take a lot of risk. Like, it's been very different since being in the GLP-1 world, but I like my regular paycheck. I like my benefits. I have a fantastic job. My boss is amazing. The people I work with are awesome. But ultimately, this is my calling, and, my friend Sabrina often says, like, Kim, I wish you could see you like through like my eyes, how I see you. And I'm working on that, but I just think that making the choice to leave my regular job is because it's just not sustainable. I can't make content on all the platforms. I can't do the podcast. I can't do lives. I can't do shop and my day job at the level of the career that I'm at, right? And continue to do this. And it's like what you and I talked about, like, you can't serve two masters, right? And I have like 4 masters. Like, it's just not possible. So it's a leap of faith. It really is a leap of faith. And I am incredibly terrified. But in all honesty, there have been several times in my life where I have felt a push and a pull from God, where he laid out a path for me. And when I don't follow it, it doesn't go well. And he usually will force me into that spot that he wants me in. And it's very uncomfortable, right? But times in my life where I've been like, I'm just going to follow the path and I'm going to surrender to his will, it's worked out for me. So it's terrifying because I'm the one that supports my family. I hold the insurance. I hold all the things. So I have to take all of my time and I have to do a lot of shop and a lot of things with with paid streams and all of these different things to be able to support my family, to continue to be a GLP-1 evangelist, right? Like I am. But I'm writing a book, I'm creating a documentary and all of these different things. And I need to be able to have the mental time and the physical time to be able to do these things. And the time is now. This isn't like 6 months. Oh, we'll do it in 6 months. That's just not how this space works. This is a movement. This is a movement. And people forget that. This isn't a trend. This is a movement, right? This is akin to penicillin, right? This is literally changing people's lives, extending their life, and creating a stronger, quality of life more than people may have never thought before. And we are at the forefront of that movement. And you don't walk away from that. You don't walk away from that. So that's my, hallelujah.
I really appreciate you being so, I wouldn't expect anything less from you. That's what makes the plus size, I think, such a unique space and a unique community, is that you just have always been so open. And I don't know if it's like just the dude perspective in me, but I have a really, like, I just respect that a lot. When you're willing to be that vulnerable and open about all the things and just put it out there. When you say that you bled on that app, I think that is what people have been attracted to towards the plus sides. And I think of, one of the things that we got into a lot of this. I'm going to be on a future episode of the plus sides we recorded just the other night. So we've been going back and forth on this, and then we've been talking on the phone over the last couple of weeks too, as we've both sort of been. I didn't know that you were planning on making this big move. I'm by the way, super thrilled.
I didn't plan on it.
It's funny, but I can so identify with when you feel like the Lord is calling you in one direction. It is a hard thing to resist.
Yes.
Because you're resisting it, and you're like, the creator of the universe has got me pulling in this direction. I'm not going to win this battle. And so I totally understand that. But I think that the fact that you had mentioned the unique part about like this being not a trend. I was just having this same conversation because I mentioned at the top of this that I'm writing a book also. The person I was talking to said something that really stuck out to me, and this reminds me of something else that I wanted to share. My mind's going 30 different directions, but
sorry.
She shared something with me that was, I think it was a word that I needed to hear. And I think that it's a word for you also. And what she said is, when your burdens and your giftings intersect, It's like God shines a light down from heaven on what you're doing and gives you a gold star pass from heaven to just do it. And I felt that in my bones when she said that. And I definitely feel like, and then a little bit later in the afternoon, I see your video and you're like, I quit my job. And I just was like, yes. I mean, because the unique thing about both of us is like we both advocate in very different ways, but we both advocate in the ways that we advocate. And I think we both give a lot to what we do, and we both feel calling. So I think there's this sort of unique kinship and just understanding that we're both fighting the good fight and understanding uniquely how hard that is. So I want to validate you in that decision because I know how big that was for your family, especially when you're the one that is bringing in the benefits and the income and all of those things, which are a heavy burden to bear. And to feel like you're walking away from the safe option never feels like the safe thing to do. But when you can rest in the fact that the God who hung the stars is pulling you in the direction that he is pulling you in. If he takes care of making sure that the sparrow that flies over the field has what that sparrow needs for the day, he's going to give you what you need. And so I think that this is just such an exciting time to be able to have been given a voice in this community. And like you said, in this movement, I know that's something that I'm stealing from you, but it is a movement. It is not a fad. It is not a trend. These medications are not going away. Obesity treatment is not going away. It's getting better. And with any, I don't want to say luck, but if all goes according to plan, in the next 10 years, the conversations we're going to be having around obesity are going to be very different. Because we're going to be talking about the playing field will have been leveled by these medications. And then we're going to be able to focus on other things like optimizing health and really we can get over, just this like idea of what sort of, I think, brings people into the community initially. And that's just weight loss, the hope of losing the weight. Right. Yes. But as you get into it, it's so much more than weight loss. It is like, it's everything. Right. But the weight loss is sort of what pulls people in initially.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about, you talked about a book and you talked about a documentary. Can you just like sort of fly over what your vision is for those things and share that with the community a little bit?
Yeah. So the documentary and the book, obviously. Oh,
I'm still here.
Okay, good. That freaked me out, Dave.
This is your show now.
I was like, wait. So the documentary is about how content creators on TikTok took a diabetic medication to lose weight, went viral, and caused a national shortage. At least that's what you think happened. And I'm bringing together some key people that have been in the community and content creators, from originals to people that are creating even more recently and started their journey, this year as opposed to 2 years ago when I did. And we're telling our story and how we saw it happen and how it is a movement and how it's not a trend and all of the things that were wrong and all of the key things that happened through all of this. So if you think about it, like us having the podcast, Rosie coming on our show, Oprah coming out saying she's on a GLP-1, creating all of these different specials, bringing doctors together to do kind of what we've been doing, theft. And that's what it's about. And I just think that we need to set the record straight. And I think that it's kind of sort of in the media a little bit more, coming out more and more. And, we have to also remember, like, during this time, there were a lot of historic things that happened, right? Weight Watchers buying, literally gold standard, right, of diet culture, buying a telehealth to be able to prescribe these medications, Oh, you're on mute. I can't hear you.
Did you see that their chief medical officer resigned today?
No.
Not Nadolski. I thought it was Nadolski, but it was some gal. I didn't recognize her name, but anyway, I just was like, ooh, that's interesting.
But
Anyway.
that, and then we've seen this stuff with PBM reform, right? And all of this, we're now talking about you and me and Bear and some other people heading up to Washington for when they have the CEO of Novo Nordisk and having a presence there and saying it's not okay and that we need to have more access to these medications, right? And the price is too high. It's too high, right? And we're a part of history at this point. Like we're going to be part of, voices in legislation. And all of that has happened over the past 2 years and continues to escalate. So the documentary is going to talk about those things. The book is adjunct, right, with the documentary. It's something to get out sooner because ultimately I need to raise money to make the documentary. Like that's how it is. They're very expensive. And I've been like you, I was just trying to figure it out. I was like, we'll just start filming stuff. Let's just see what happens. You know what I mean? Okay, we'll do that. And then, all the learnings from doing it because I don't know what I'm doing, and we've learned a lot and I still have more to learn. But one thing I did learn is I got to raise money to be able to do it well. But I likely will start with launching it on the YouTube channel. And then if it ends up if we are able to do a pitch and we can get Netflix or anybody else to buy it, then great. Then we'll do it that way. But I have always said from the very beginning when I started this podcast, my goal was to get as loud as I possibly could and to change things, right? And I don't know what change equals, right? Maybe that's just the lives of the people that watch it and feel heard and seen, right? Or maybe it's we actually do have a voice and things actually change in terms of price, legislation, affordability, accessibility. Maybe, I don't know. But what I do know is that we're just going to keep hammering it. And the book will be, I already written it. I need to refine it and all the things because like you said, we have to learn, right? But my book is a little bit different. It's almost think of it like a website, but you would download it like an ebook. But I have all of my TikToks from 2 years back. And it's not every single one of them. It's highlights. And I have them connected on a GLP-1 playlist on my TikTok for now. And while you're reading about all the things that have happened to me, based in my life, and then all the things that have happened over the past 2 years and what I've witnessed and what I've been a part of, I have videos so that people can go and see it happening real time. So it's going to be like that all together.
Sort of like a timeline kind of.
It's very chronological. Yeah. Yeah. But it's my story. Cool. It's the story of what I've witnessed. And then you'll actually be able to go and see because TikTok was sort of honestly, it's the platform. It's what started this, it's what made everything explode. It really did because of honestly, the power of that algorithm is just insane, So that's what it's about. That's what the goal is. I just keep thinking to myself, if I just had the time, if I just had this available, if I just had my heart open enough, maybe I could actually be present with my family when I'm carving in time for them, and maybe I could actually do what I felt called to do. And the truth is something had to give. Right. Yeah. And that's where we're at. So the book will come out before the
gave.
Right. Hint, hint, wink, wink.
Called a 2-week notice.
Yeah. I was like, oops.
That is so cool. That is so cool. I'm super excited for you on both counts. One of the things you said, everything you say pops off 35 questions. You are a problem for my ADD. And it really, anytime I talk to anybody who's can meet my passion on this stuff, it's almost too much for me. But the thing that you said that really jumped out to me that I'm curious, when you talked about getting loud, and that is definitely a Kimism. When you talk about getting loud, when you kind of retrospectively look at the last 2 years and the way that you've gotten loud, how do you think that the plus sides how do you think that getting loud has impacted the community? What tangible ways? I have some things that I can think of about how the plus sides is, but from your perspective, what do you think those are?
So I will tell you, I think I realized the impact it was having when I started coming across some newer creators that had just started to create the content, right? So they had just started to decided they were going to share their journey and share their story. And I remember one in particular was Jess. And Jess talked for 10 minutes. which is so that she did on TikTok. And I watched the whole thing, and I had the attention span of a gnat. And she at the end goes, and now I've learned I'm not alone, and it's not my fault. And I'm like, I don't even know Jess, but she watches the podcast. And I started seeing more and more people popping up and saying, I learned it there. I'm not alone. It's not my fault. I'm not alone. And the unwinding of the mental stuff that comes with the shame that this disease, right, and the society puts on us.
Yeah.
And so I started
that we in turn put on ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. And then I started seeing seeing them start to go live. And I noticed in the live, it was almost a blueprint of my live, which made me thrilled to no end. I was like, because that's my goal. I want to get as loud as possible. And I've always said more voices equals good. There is no such thing as only Kim can have a podcast or like that's just insane. Like it's going to take way more than my little podcast to do anything. It's all about the ripple. It's all about the ripple. You know, I will tell you a story about my son. So my son is autistic. He's very social. He's very verbal, very intelligent, but he's autistic. And he was in school this year. And I have been struggling a lot with being away and not being as present for him as I want to be. I've always been a very tentative mother. I had 2 miscarriages before them. He's the light of my life. There's nothing better. Sorry, John. That's my husband. I'll tell you. Yeah. Like I didn't think I was gonna get to have kids. So like it was incredible. And I've really struggled with doing this. And I made a video with him one day, and I just said, you got to teach your kids to advocate. And he remembered that. And I went, and his teacher told me that when she picked him up from school, or when I picked him up before I went to go pick him up from school, she told me before I got him, she said, I just want you to know that Warren decided that there needs to be more apples in the cafeteria. There needs to be more apples. He thought it was really important for people to have apples. Well, my son doesn't have a lot of foods that are safe for him. And that is one, green apples are his thing. And he went and got a petition and got people to sign it. My kid, my socially awkward autistic kid, right? Went out to people and got them to sign it. And when I picked him up and asked him, I said, are you doing that for like a class? Is that an assignment? And he said, no, Mom, I just think we should have more apples because they're good for you. And I was like, okay. And then he goes, it's like you said, you have to teach your kids to advocate. And I thought, that's the ripple, Dave, right? Like that's what it is, right? It's the ripple. It's the other creators. It's my kid, like understanding what it is that I'm doing. And now that John is doing with me, he's understanding the importance and the voice and the power of what it is we're trying to achieve here. And that's not fake. You can see that because these people are stepping up and they're making content so more people know. Because obviously only 10% of the people see my content unless I go viral, right? Only 10% of my followers, maybe. That's what the numbers show. So ultimately, we have to spread it out. There's no way. We have to work together as a community, you know? And I think that's important. And like, I will tell you, so my company that I'm resigning from is called Red Hat. And Red Hat was literally built by a community. They are built by a community of developers. It's literally called the community. And they build technology together on projects, which then Red Hat productizes and then solves problems all over the world. Like IBM owns Red Hat, right? So, and they do that by all grabbing a piece and rolling with it. So when I started the podcast, I knew that I would never be able to do it by myself. I needed the community. So everywhere we've gotten and everything we have and everywhere we are isn't just because I stood up and came forward. It's because of all of the ants, right, coming together. And if you add us all together, we're incredibly strong and incredibly powerful. And I think that it's easy to forget that when you struggle with this disease. And it's why I wake up every day and I make the content that I do, because I have never met a fat and lazy person since I've been in this community. It doesn't exist. It's not a thing. If anything, people with obesity are the strongest, most baller people I've ever met. They have so much grit and they are a blessing for this world. And
nobody knows how to white knuckle it like somebody.
Yes, absolutely. Nobody's tougher. I'm just, so those people, are people. They have a certain level of strength and grit that keeps me going every day. And the reason we are where we are, honestly, is because of the community. you know, but I would say like, that's what I've seen. You know, I think other people see other things, but yeah.
Yeah, I would just throw my 2 cents in there because, you know, what you have created with your team at the Plus Sides, and I really think that's part of what makes what you do special, is that you've brought people along on your journey in a really unique way with the Plus Sides. You've created a place where I feel like people can go there and they can literally let it all hang out, right? Like, no more sucking in your gut. Just let it all hang out, and people can talk about trauma. They can talk about you know, issues that they dealt with, and they can do that because the Plus Sides ladies lead the way with that, right? Like, you all do that, so the community in turn feels like they can do that as well. And I just think that that's one of the coolest things about the Plus Sides community in general. The second thing is, I think that you have, in addition to sort of shaping, you know, let's call it this, let's couch it a little bit different way. You created a template on TikTok specifically that many people could sort of pick up, take that template, make it their own, and put it out there. And it empowered a whole bunch of people that are now empowering a whole bunch of people. And, you know, we go back to the first time you came on my show, and I think that's probably where I threw the GLP-1 evangelist term out. And I was like, this is the natural progression of that, right? Somebody tell somebody, tell somebody, tell somebody. I didn't know who Jesus was until a whole train of people leading all the way back to, you know, Jesus times. Somebody told somebody, told somebody, told somebody, told somebody, told somebody, told Dave. And this is how this works. And so, I mean, there's a real element to that analogy that one thing begats another. And that's, to me, another thing that the Plus Sides has done really well. We've done it here at OnThePen too. It's just like I was sharing this in my members only live. You're way more systematic about what you do than I am. I think I'm a little bit more spaghetti against the wall. I think now that you have that you've been empowered by sort of shedding off the day job, you're gonna what's the word? It's going to be orders of magnitude bigger for Plus Sides, because I think that you're going to have the mental capacity to do bigger things and the time and the bandwidth to do it. But
I hope so.
I mean,
I'll just get another job, guys. Like, it'll be fine. Like, worst case.
Jobs are very replaceable, right?
Yes.
And also, you know, and also be able to sort of, you know, leverage the time that you need to with your family. I told my wife several times over the last week since I switched what I was doing. I was like, I noticed this about our kid today. You know, we got 4 of them. So, and just enjoying them. And that's been a real reflective point for me. It's like, I think about all the energy that I put into building this thing over the last 2 years, while I was also trying to serve another master, to use, you know, that analogy. And I know that I missed a lot. And so I'm super, super thankful that I have made that decision. And I know that you will be too on the other side of this, right? So I'm going to say this because I know Kim doesn't say this kind of stuff easily. It comes harder to her because she's in the marketing world and not in the sales world. But I'm in the sales world and I'm not afraid to ask. So I'm telling you, you need to become a member on the Plus Sides side. You need to become a member of her community and find a way. If you find value, if you extract value out of the Plus Sides community, find a way to give back. And for some of you, that's going to mean financial, right? Like, you don't mind throwing $3 a month at the Plus Sides or $10 a month at the Plus Sides because you extract enough value to justify that. For some of you, it's just not an option to give that way. But a great form of advocacy is liking, saving, sharing, commenting, sending a podcast to a friend. Those are all, like, do not misvalue or undervalue what sharing content does for advocacy, right? Because it's all that, it's the the GLP-1 evangelism. You tell somebody, and ultimately more lives are changed and impacted by the information that is shared. So whether that's podcast, 5-star ratings and reviews, obviously Kim is kind of led with the Plus Sides podcast, and we talk about this over here. But if you go to Apple Podcasts, look up the Plus Sides with the Z, give it a 5-star rating. Just that's all. Literally, there's 5 stars there, and all you have to do is touch it. It's the easiest form of advocacy. Another thing that you can do is you can write a quick review. Just tell the algorithm how it's changed your life, right? So these are all things. I know Kim has a harder time asking for the sale, but that I'm thankful for my background in sales, because I'm always like, hit that like, hit that bell, hit that sub, get a 5-star rating and review, blah 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 blah. It probably gets annoying.
I've gotten better. I ask people to follow now.
And I saw you did a video. You're like, give it a 5, and you tagged me in it. You're like, I was like, Kim tagged me in something. What is this? Give the podcast a 5-star rating. And by the way, I mentioned this in our interview the other day, but of course I keep track of our podcast, and I track the other ones that are like me to just see how we're all doing. And the Plus Sides podcast hit number, was it number 18? 18 in cracked the top 20 in the United States for medical podcasts. I mean, number 1 is Andrew Huberman, right? Number 18 was the Plus Sides. That's a huge accomplishment for the Plus Sides. And, I've got to commend you for what you've done over at the Plus Sides. I love that what we're doing here at OnThePen and what you're doing at the Plus Sides are so complementary of each other. And it's so cool to have met a friend along the journey that understands the struggle of and I like, this is not intended to bleed on you all, but it's the reality that this is a commitment, and there are sacrifices that we make and that our family make so that we can do these things. And Kim has really, really, really built something special with the Plus Sides. So to you OnThePenners, or you penners who haven't checked out the Plus Sides, please go over, follow her YouTube channel, go over to her podcast, give it a 5-star rating and review. And it's very similar. So just to sort of like, for those of you who are new, I know there probably aren't that many people here right now that don't overlap. I mean, I can see you all in the chat, and so I know that you're all kind of everywhere. But for those of you watching this down the road, the podcast is very sort of similarly structured to OnThePen, in that you usually, like over here, I goof off for 20 minutes, and then we have a guest. And that guest is sometimes a doctor, and that guest is sometimes just a community member. I stole that phrase from you, like community member. But over on the Plus Sides, she has a guest. You can say this better than I can. You have a guest, and then you have a
community story
professional.
Yes. And then we have a medical professional to validate the experiences with facts, science, and data of the person with obesity that shares their story. And it could be, it could be anything, right? Like it could be that they have PCOS and obesity. It could be that they didn't gain weight until they hit menopause. It could be they've been obese their whole life. It could be they have heart disease. They have type 2 diabetes. Maybe they don't have type 2 diabetes. You know what I mean? Like it could be so many different. And because my background is in marketing and I do product marketing. So I take very complicated things and I break them down into like this simple, stupid as much as possible, if that makes sense, like very complicated things. Right. And so I thought, this is very complicated, right? So let's find a way to like break it down, right? And so that's what we try to do. So I think when I met Z who's the CEO of Row, he said, you're moving the heart and then you're moving the mind, right? And that's what it is. So they're very emotional like episodes, but it is my intent. My intent is for people to do both because it is very easy. It is very easy in this country, specifically really in this world, to see somebody who is obese and to dismiss them, right? Mm-hmm. And to think that they are whining. And when you combine a story that is powerful with validation, especially with somebody that has numbers or not numbers, it has letters after their name, you know, that changes things. That moves mountains. And we are going to move mountains.
Yeah.
You know?
And have. I think that there's going to be amazing things coming from the plus sides in the future. Congratulations on this huge, just as a human to another human, this was a huge step to take. Congratulations for taking it. And I think this is going to pay off in spades, not only for the plus sides and for the community, but for your family as well. I hope that, and I pray that for you, because I know that this is something that's been on your heart. It's been on mine too. It's been a pleasure to sort of share this journey and sort of ride this escalator with you. I think we both kind of saw this like 2 years ago in a way. Like, this is huge. Like, this is going to help so many people. How can I use my gifts to complement that? And then both, you know, here we are where I think, like, when we talk and we sort of like, this is what I've been working on. This is who I've been talking to. And we're just like, can you believe this? And it's like, no, this is crazy. But,
and it's awesome because we're almost like two bookends. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like, and both incredibly, like, I think necessary, the way that we handle things. There's no one person that could do all these things. And ultimately there are articles and studies and all of these different things. There's not enough doctors to talk about it. And honestly, a lot of times the doctors don't break it down to where the average person can even understand, right? And you do that. And that, for me, Dave, I've gotten to the point where I don't even read those things anymore. I just look at your channel and I catch up with everything there, because you've broken it down for me quickly in a way that I can understand, in a way that I can replicate, in a way that I can share with others, right? And that is not easy. And that is a gift. And I'm so thankful for it. And I know that everyone else is here as well. And that's why you will always be a place for you on the plus sides, for you to come on. Like, and I thank you for letting me come on tonight. I feel this thing I need to say. So over the past 2 years, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. He's kidney failure, type 2 diabetes, all the things, obesity, all the things. And then my sister, who is our middle sister, was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease. And she's younger than me, much younger. And she is the picture of health. Like, if you were to look at her, she's tiny, she's fit, she does yoga, she eats like a champ, like the picture of health, fighting for her life because of this autoimmune disease that has given her this very rare kind of cancer. And then she had to have a transplant. And our family has gone through hell watching her fight. And she's just now getting on the other side of that. And even my dad's numbers have improved significantly and in this amount of time. I want to say this because I just feel like there's somebody out there that needs to hear it. When we talk about this medication and the shortages and the not being able to afford it, or the losing access to it, which we're going to see more and more, right? And we know more about with compound, that being an option. We still know it's a big expense regardless, right? When we think about that, I think that it's easy when we got on this medicine and we've had these moments for us to say, you know what, I've got it figured out, MOUNJARO to the end, right? Or GLP-1s to the end, or to the right, whatever it is, or the rest of my life, right? Ultimately, we have a disease, and ultimately there's no cure. There are only treatments. And many of us many of these people with these disease right now will maybe never get access, or won't get access for many, many years because of the issue with accessibility and affordability. And I want everybody to remember that literally we fool ourselves, right? Control is an illusion, you know? And I think that we fool ourselves sometimes when we talk about forever. You only have today. You literally do. You have today with this medicine. You have today without this medicine. You have today only. So whether you've got a box in your fridge, right, or you don't, or you're going to have to compound, or you're going to be without it for a while, ultimately, you only have today. So I feel like I hear people often in my lives and stuff and are so terrified. And the reason they are, right, is because it's the one thing that's worked, right? It's the one thing that's gotten the blood sugar under control, that's gotten the inflammation under control, that's got the mental health under control, that's gotten the weight under control. It's the one thing that's actually worked and stuck, right? So it's so easy to be terrified of losing it. But I just want everybody to just remember, like, perspective, no matter what, if you've got 5 boxes, you still only have today because you may not wake up tomorrow. And I think that seeing my family struggle and fight for life over the past 2 years has helped me with that perspective and allowed me to do what I feel like many people have been telling me to do my whole life because I have obsessive anxiety, which is you just need to be right here, right now. Right. And I think that it's helped me. And I just felt like a call to say that. And I just like hope that whoever needed to hear that, like it helped. So that's all.
Extremely, extremely good advice for anybody in any season of life. Yeah, all you have is today, and all you have is what's right in front of you.
Yes.
And you never know when that's going to be taken away.
You don't.
And some people know that reality way more than others. And it is a solid reminder in this bubble that can oftentimes be so myopically focused on, especially the shortages and the insurance stuff, which is we spend a lot of time talking about, right?
Of course.
And honestly, probably sometimes contributes to exacerbating people's fears because we're reporting. I am reporting on shortages. I am reporting on insurance companies doing terrible things so that people can have an awareness, right? But this all sort of heightens the anxiousness because and that's not obviously its intent, but
No,
what we're focused on is the positive benefits of what people are seeing with advancements in medication, advancements in understanding obesity and treating it as a disease, right? Mm-hmm. Which begats really great medical treatments, whether it's surgeries or pharmaceutical drugs or nutritional interventions or what have you. Yeah. But yes, it is so important, such an important reminder to know that what you have is today and what you have is what's right in front of you. I'm sure that was a contributing factor to the decision that you made today to leave your job. It's certainly been a contributing factor in the way that I have lived my entire life because I lost several friends at a very, very young age. I lost my dad at a pretty young age. These are all constant reminders of like, hey, we don't know what's happening tomorrow. So excellent advice, Kim. Really, really appreciate it. Anything else you'd like to say to the community or any specific place you'd like to push people to find you?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, like the things that Dave said, I'll ask for the sale. Please go give us a review on Apple and Spotify too. If you can, like you said, like the 5 stars would be great. A deeper review would be even better. Definitely check out. I would say like, it's great to follow me on DMF Kim, but honestly, my content's specifically pretty suppressed there. But DMF Kim on Instagram, I've been able to basically say whatever I want. So DMF Kim MOUNJARO on Instagram has been the one where my short form content has been living. We are definitely trying to grow the channel, especially now since I need to support my family with these things. So if you'll go follow us on YouTube, that will be amazing. Join us for our lives. I will be doing members only lives soon. So for people that do sign up to be members and give in whatever way that they can, there is nothing more powerful in this community than engagement. Nothing more powerful. And I don't mean to get like weird about it, but like, guys, we own this algorithm. We own it. Our movement or lack thereof steers it, like point blank period. If you like, save, share, repost, and all of those things to every time you see Dave's video or my video or anybody in our community, we are then relevant. And there is nothing more powerful in social media and in a movement than engagement. So I know sometimes just because you're not a creator, it does not mean that you're not a part of this movement. You are. Your words, your comments, your actions, all of that move things up. The plus side.
It's advocacy.
It is. It's advocacy. Everything you do or don't do. Okay.
It's getting loud.
Matters. So we can get loud together, and you don't have to be a creator to get loud and be a part of this movement. You don't. You just have to engage. And so I just ask that if anything else, reviews and engagement are the most powerful thing, especially if you're on a budget and you can't give.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kim, thank you so much for being here, especially on this day of all days. We didn't plan it this way, but this is how it worked out.
We plan and God laughs, Dave. We plan and God laughs.
100%. 100%. I pray blessings over you and your family. And I'm gonna end the show with you on here with the blessing that I normally give the audience. And this is for you. This is for everybody. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for being the best part of what we do at On the Pen. This was a good one. I really encourage you to go over, check out the plus sides. Can't wait to do it again next week. Until next week, we will see you on the pen. Thank you all.